Pre-show music. This is the pre-show music. Pre-show music. Playing strong. Pre-show music. Playing long. See, that's subverting expectations there. This is the pre-show music, so you can relax and have a good time while you wait for pictures to appear. Pre-show music, it's the best thing in the world. Pre-show music, tell me what rhymes with world. Pre-show music here. Everybody sing pre-show music. This is the pre-show music. Pre-show music playing strong. Pre-show music playing long. I didn't get a very big breath. This is the pre-show music, so you can relax and have a good time while you wait for pictures to appear. Pre-show music, it's the best thing in the world. Pre-show music, tell me what rhymes with world. Pre-show music here. Hey! All right, let's see here. This button. All right, good. Hi, DT. Thank you for coming out. Subverting your poor expectations. Yeah, here we are. You and I, at least, anyway. 3,000 subscribers. And, wow. That's really weird. Still really... I know that in the realm of YouTube, that is a microscopic number. But it's significant to me. I mean, I think about, we go to a, I guess kind of a mid-sized church, not a mega church. I think between the two services, pre-COVID numbers anyway, were, I think, over 1,000, but not much. And I think we're getting close to getting back to that. And so I think about, just the large number of people I see even in one service. And I think about 3,000 people at some point clicking and saying, sure, I'd be interested in more of that, to my channel. This is really weird, and I'm really grateful for it. So, I don't know, what might be on your mind. DT is the only one in chat right now, but if you want to suggest a topic or ask a question, you can feel free. And in the meantime, I will just talk about whatever comes to my mind. You know what came to my mind, actually? When was it? Oh, it was today. That was today. But I just could not get out of my head. Was a Carpenter song. Why do birds suddenly appear? And do you know why that is? Because my Xbox Series X, when it turns on, it goes... And I guess I didn't have an Xbox One, and so I didn't. But I guess that turn on sound is also the turn on those three notes for the Xbox One. But I heard that, and all I could think about was the stinking Carpenter song. I'm not even a Carpenter's fan, but every time now that I turn it on, it goes and I go suddenly appear every time. I don't think there's been a single time that I haven't done that. DT says, did you hear about the Microsoft $7 billion deal for Activision? And then adds, hooray on 3,000 fellow human beings. Yeah, that's right. That is a staggering number. I mean, again, you get numb to, and I see many, many channels that are much more popular than mine, and you're used to seeing these huge numbers. Here's something that those two comments have in common, DT. Is that 3,000 is weird for me to kind of wrap my head around. People clicking on my channel. 3,000 people did that. Or maybe a few of them on multiple accounts. And then $70 billion for Activision. I talked about that a little bit on the podcast episode that I uploaded this morning. And so I'll try to not repeat myself too much for those of you that may listen to that before or after you get around to this. But putting that in perspective, Star Wars, all things Star Wars, Disney purchased for less than 5 billion. Less than 5 billion. And then we all marveled, no pun intended, when Bethesda was purchased for about 7 billion. We were like, that's almost twice the price of Star Wars. Star Wars, like all things Star Wars. And Bethesda was purchased for almost twice that. And then I guess there was another purchase of like Zynga or something, and I don't know, that they produce mostly mobile game stuff, and so that doesn't really resonate with me. But jumping from Star Wars to Bethesda, and then to now like 10 times Bethesda. 10 times Bethesda. I mean, it was technically 68 point something. But when you're getting that high, what's another 2 billion or 1.5 billion or whatever the crap? So I mean, I don't even know what to make of that. I mean, Activision, even if you just bring to mind the games that I'm not a big fan of Activision or Blizzard games, but the ones I can think of offhand, and I listed a lot more of them on the podcast. Call of Duty, Majigger, that's not a real game. Call of Duty, I was going to say Blizzard, that's also not a game. Diablo, Warcraft, as in World of, and the original series, Warcraft. And I feel like there's one more. But I mean, that's enough. Those are huge. And certainly, I mean, Call of Duty alone, a lot of people that aren't even like quote unquote gamers, it's not like their main hobby. They just play one game a year, like a Call of Duty game and a sports game. And they buy a console just to do that year after year after year as those annualized titles come out. So I guess it gives me some perspective on how popular those games are, even compared to something like Skyrim. But dang, I can't wrap my head around that. Let's see. Hey, got a few other people who just jumped into the chat. Hello, Jonathan Rector, Adam Collings, Nathan Hale, and I think my favorite username still to say out loud, Kuba Booba. Let's see here. Jonathan Rector, welcome. I don't think I've seen that username before, so welcome, and thank you for jumping in here. That or it's been a while, and my poor memory just strikes again. Jonathan says, as a fellow solo player, all right, man after my heart, have you tried Solo Dungeons and Dragons? I just found out about it for a little over a year, and it's been amazing fun. I assume you mean like tabletop. Like when you first said solo player, I assumed you were talking about video games. That's just where my head was at. But maybe you've seen like my board game live streams, which I'm going to do another one this coming week for Monday through Thursday. I have not. I've heard different. I follow one YouTuber called, I think it's called Geek Gamers. And a lot of her content is about coming up with resources to enable solo role playing. But it sounds like what you're saying is that actually D&D has put out one or more products to facilitate solo Dungeons and Dragons. So if you want to give me more details, I would definitely be interested in looking it up later on and finding out more. Especially if, as you say, it's been amazing fun. That does sound really cool. I do wonder, like, how much it would hold my interest to just be by myself and dealing with that level of rules complexity. I don't know. I think one thing that I found I enjoy about doing solo tabletop gaming is the tactile, visible nature of it, and I don't think I want to go down the rabbit hole of buying a bunch of D&D miniatures, but I like that idea in principle so much that, yes, I do want to know more about it if you want to put anything, in any search terms or whatever that you would recommend in the chat. Hello, Adam. He just said, hey there, I'll catch up to you. It looks like there's maybe a comment or a question from you in a little bit here, Adam. Okay, DT says, I forgot you had a Series X. Just thought it was the PS5. What motivated the purchase, and are you happy? Yeah, what headspace was I in? I think I had figured out early on, before both consoles actually released, that I was like, if I was only going to get one, it would be a Series X. The reason, so maybe the more relevant question is, why did I bother buying a PS5? I had just been saving up for a while. You know, I dropped comic books as a hobby about, a little less than 10 years ago now, because it was about a year after the New 52 launched. And I'd been putting so much money into comics that now suddenly I wasn't. And so I've been saving and saving and saving and saving, and I've just become frugal in other ways over the years. And so I realized I would probably have enough if I stayed disciplined to get both consoles. And so part of the reason I got the PS5 was because I wanted to hand down my PS4 to my boys. So that's why I got that first. Because I was excited last Christmas 2020, so a little over a year ago, to hand down my PS4 to my boys. And I could do that comfortably if I had a PS5 to replace it. And so that's what motivated that. Otherwise, as I've said a number of times in the podcast, I wouldn't have bought a PS5 yet. I would still, at this point, maybe still be waiting. I don't know. The reason I got a Series X, I would still, in my mind, I almost regret buying it as early as I did. Now, of course, I'm enjoying both consoles for what they offer, but I still don't think like these consoles are must-have things right now. I don't think there's, other than the load times, which the load times and the frame rate stuff, if I had lived without having that experience, I was fine. I was content, you know. Now that I have them, I would miss them, but it was, you know, a minor nuisance, just an accepted element of my gaming that I was fine with, both in terms of 30 FPS and, you know, prolonged load times with some games. So the reason I pulled the trigger on the Series X was I thought in last summer that there was a decent chance that Starfield would be coming out this fall, and that it was looking like it was going to be an exclusive. Well, we've learned since then it is in fact going to be an exclusive to Series X. So that alone, you know, when they got Bethesda, I was like, okay, I'm getting a Series X, because you know, those are some of my favorite games of all time, those Bethesda RPGs. And so, but I pulled the trigger when I did, because I was like, well, I want to get this now, because when they announce concrete details about the looming, I thought, release date for Starfield, then there's going to be a big rush to get the Series X, and it's going to be hard to find. So when an opportunity presented itself, I'd been using tricks recommended on IGN to have tabs open and all your accounts logged into, so as soon as one of them became available, you get an alert on your phone, you jump to your computer. I work from home, so it wasn't that crazy hard to pull off. It took a few tries. But then I was like, I'm going to get it while the getting's good, you know. So, but then it wasn't long after that I found out, oh crap, Starfield is like a year and a half from now, not 6 months from now. So that kind of sucked. But in hindsight, it turns out that it wasn't a bad decision anyway, because, at least I don't think, for me, because Microsoft has been moving their components. Like the Series S is a lot easier to find, reportedly, than the X. And what I heard from a news podcast, a gaming news podcast, is that Microsoft has been moving components from making more Series X's, or as many as they could, to setting up their cloud gaming system. And I would want the Series X because I want to have discs. I want to have the option of discs. You know, that was just a must-have for me at this point. So anyway, yeah, that was the reason that I pulled the trigger at the time, and why, you know, even though shortly afterward I was like, crap, right now I'm like, okay, well, I'm glad I have it now, because it sounds like it would be even more difficult to get going forward from this point. And the chip shortages we thought would be coming to an end sometime in 2021, who knows when they're going to end now. I mean, it's just like we're all kind of accepting, oh, all this COVID stuff and the changes in the world related to it are not dying down in 2021, or it looks like maybe even 2022. We're just kind of adjusting to a new normal, So anyway, so I've got mixed feelings about that purchase, but I'm glad that I have it. And at this point, in a number of ways, I don't regret the purchase, and I'll certainly appreciate and enjoy having it once those Bethesda games start coming out. Nathan Hell says, greetings from a nerdy Christian who recently discovered this channel. Oh, well, thank you, Nathan. Great to have you here. I used to be an atheist and gave my life to Christ in April of 2019. Oh, man. That's great. That's awesome. That is awesome. I studied Christian apologetics and spoke with believers. So cool. So cool. So you said I studied Christian apologetics and spoke with believers. It sounds like, is that what you're saying kind of like was kind of a significant element in you coming to faith? Yeah, it'd be cool to connect with you in some other context that allows for longer messages. I'd love to hear more about your story. Anyway, welcome. So great to have you here, and far many more times more awesome to hear about your new life in Christ. That's awesome. Kuba Booba. Oh no, he's talking to Jonathan Rector. Adam Collins, not necessarily directed at me, but says, when talking about games he'd like to revive, the Microsoft guy mentioned King's Quest. Activision owns Sierra. Yeah, I have a lot of gaming podcasts that I have queued up that their main topic is all this big acquisition. And so there's a lot I'm looking forward to kind of hearing. But I did hear a little bit of news bubbling that Microsoft is like looking at Activision-Blizzard with an eye on their older properties and seeing and reviving them, Because even though this company was huge, reportedly it was doing a lot of what it was doing just to have an eye on the dollar and be profitable. Like, there is ways in which it was struggling. Of course, the big controversy with its CEO this last year has not been helping, and for all I know, was hurting it catastrophically. I don't know. I don't really keep track of some of the more economic sides of the games industry and that kind of news. But anyway, with the amount of money that Microsoft has, they can afford to let these companies do their thing more. And that really seems to be the common line that we hear from Phil Spencer, which I'm starting to believe might be true. That their philosophy is buy these studios or publishers or whatever, and just kind of let them do their thing. Do what already has made them great. So it looks like we don't have reason yet to fear that it's going to be an EA BioWare situation, or EA whatever studio they buy, which very predictably over the years, EA buys a studio, it slowly loses its identity and becomes more like business oriented and all about the numbers and sales and stuff, and their games start to tank, and then that studio gets closed. So it doesn't look like there's no signs anyway that that's going to be the path that these studios take. So yeah, I think that's cool. I love the idea of these developers, as a result of being purchased, not being in survival mode anymore, and being allowed to kind of do some cool, fun, creative things that are more creatively inspired rather than financially inspired. Of course, there's bad sides of this too, potentially, with monopolies and stuff like that. I don't really have any thoughts on that, I don't think. But anyway, yeah, it's going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting. DT says, I know they said Call of Duty will be on PlayStation, but that's a phenomenon. It has to stay. Others, I think, will mostly be Game Pass exclusives. And it feels like, dare I say it, Microsoft could squeeze Sony out in the next 10 years or so. Yeah, that is really interesting. I mean, we've watched this last generation, Sony in one sense kind of creaming Xbox, but Sony has never been creaming Microsoft. I mean, Microsoft is so huge. I think since they've started acquiring these developers and studios and stuff, I've gained a much better appreciation for really how freaking huge Microsoft is. Yeah, so it's weird to think. I think that, Phil Spencer said today, he was quoted as saying that place or Sony or PlayStation is an important part of our industry. It was so funny to hear him say that, because Xbox has been the underdog, for a number of years now. And reading that, I mean, you can't judge tone, but how I heard it in my head was, oh, those guys, we want to have them around. They're important too. I do think, though, that the next year or two will really be telling in terms of how Phil Spencer behaves and how Xbox behaves as a brand. They've been the underdog, and so they've been in search of a lot of goodwill for players, trying to do things that aren't necessarily immediately financially profitable, like all the backwards compatibility stuff. And Phil Spencer has said a lot of things that really appeal to players, and make us feel like, that Phil, he's a good guy, But the nature of these things is, once the top dog is not the underdog anymore, but they're the top dog, then suddenly things can change, and they can start making decisions that seem to disregard players. We saw that with Sony, and we saw it, a couple generations ago with Microsoft. So it's just a pendulum that keeps swinging and turning. And one of the things that's exciting to me about this, that no one I've heard of has talked about yet, is how this is likely to drive Sony to want to please players more. And so I'm just wondering, what will they do? There's rumblings of them having a Game Pass equivalent, codenamed Spartacus right now, and still a lot of games pundits are speculating that this could be when they launch some kind of backwards compatibility thing. Unfortunately, it sounds like it's not going to be true back compat, but rather it's going to require a subscription that gives you access to a bunch of past generation games. We'll see how it plays out. But I'm just kind of like, when you see this going on and you're kind of watching it, I mean, I don't want to be cold and callous. When stuff like this is going on, it's affecting people. And there are unseen people working in these fields, working in these companies, in these industries. They're being affected in probably some very negative ways, And so I want to just make it clear that I'm just looking at a particular segment of this, and I'm not meaning to be callous toward the people whose lives this is really powerfully affecting. I'm looking at this now with the kind of like the sports, the metagame of sports kind of attitude when teams are buying and selling, quote unquote, or trading players or whatever they do in the world of sports. I don't know. It's something like that, right? And just kind of looking at this as kind of the metagame, But anyway, yeah, so it makes me kind of, in that metagame sense, lean forward and go, okay, Sony, now what? So yeah, I think competition, as they say, is good. It results in the most consumer friendly products. Let's see here. Yeah, so could Microsoft, DT says Microsoft could squeeze Sony out in the next 10 years or so. Yeah, man, anything's possible. Who knows? I still wonder, especially, with so much changing with COVID, there could be a lot bigger changes going on that would make that one seem very, very small. So we'll just see what happens. It's a wild time to live in. I remember a friend and one of the elders at our church saying, before COVID really hit, that this is going to be the kind of thing that people look back on in the same way that we look back on 9/11. Like, where were you when, And it didn't all hit on one day as the epicenter, COVID, but it's still the kind of thing that this generation, people alive right now, will be talking about for the rest of our lives. Like, I was there when COVID changed the world, because even if they figured out the medicine side of things so that COVID itself was no longer a problem, and it might end up being this recurring flu type thing that we just have to get recurring vaccines for. I mean, we'll see how it plays out. But let's say, best case scenario, the medical world figures out how to just stamp that sucker out, and the COVID itself is a thing of the past. There are still so many changes that have taken place because of COVID in terms of how industries work. Yeah. Wow. Um. Do. Kuba Booba says, oh no, he's talking to DT and not me. Sorry. But Jonathan Rector says, just to clarify, no, it's not technically official, but you can use a Dungeon Master emulator called Mythic Game Emulator. I've heard of this. You can play early D&D with rules light. Just food for thought, my friend. Thank you. Yes, I've heard of that. So thanks for kind of putting that back on my radar. Interesting. And I think it would probably work better for me with some kind of rules light type of deal. Mr. Rob's Cleaning Services. Hi, all. Well, hello, Mr. Rob's Cleaning Service. Another username I don't think I've seen before. Anyway, welcome. Let's see here. Kuba Booba, man after my own heart, says I can't wait for Starfield. I think you're a male. I think we've talked far enough at that point in the past that I figured that out. Anyway, don't mean to assume. Can't wait for Starfield. Yeah, we're gonna have to. But I share the sentiment. It's going to be really interesting. I mean, I still allow for the possibility that something's going to go catastrophically wrong, but I think since the acquisition by Microsoft, gosh, they might be in a position to have a more polished open world RPG at launch than they've ever had before. I mean, their games are known for being buggy, but maybe it originally was going to come out in November 2021, and before they announced that, when the deal was sealed with Microsoft maybe said behind doors, you don't have to get this out the door to survive anymore. What would another year give you? And maybe Todd Howard was like, give us a rockin' game at launch, and they said, yeah. Who knows? I don't. But yeah, I would really love, just kind of on a related topic, I would love for Todd Howard to get to a point where he's comfortable passing off franchises to people that maybe he's worked with for years that he would trust with it, so that we can get Elder Scrolls more often, Fallout more often, and now Starfield more often. I think that'd be really cool. But so many of those, I mean, like, I think each one of those big open world RPGs seem to have him at the head, and maybe that's just like a public-facing side of things. I don't know how much he's really the head, how much he's really hands-on and, vital and shaping of those things. But yeah, I would love for him to figure out how to delegate if he's not doing that already, so we can get those more often. Who knows? It's going to be interesting to see, along with the COVID changes, these changes in the gaming industry and all these acquisitions going on. Interesting. Kuba says maybe we will see Master Chief in Call of Duty. Yeah, there's been all kinds of talk at this point about that kind of stuff. I think at the very least it would be fun to see like little bits of DLC where you can play as this character. Maybe it'll start with just a simple skin. Maybe it'll be more than that at some point or right away. Like, hey, you can play as BJ Blazkowicz in Doom and the Doom Slayer in Wolfenstein. Oh, that'd be weird. I can see BJ going to Doom, what little I know of the experience of playing Doom, but those Wolfenstein games, they lean so much on character and drama, I don't think they could just throw in Doom Slayer. But BJ in another game? I think that's a possibility. I mean, there's all kinds of possibilities we can't even think about that might surprise us. We'll see. Hello, Jew Bangers. Says howdy, y'all. Hope everyone's doing well. I'm doing well. Hello, Phil. Phil says, hey, everybody. DT. Yeah, I noticed this and mentioned this on the podcast this weekend. DT says it's going to be so weird when a new Crash Bandicoot might be exclusive to Xbox after defining the original PlayStation. Yeah, so apparently you were around when I was to really be aware of the marketing campaign for the PlayStation 1, for which Crash Bandicoot was the mascot. Remember those commercials? You can look them up online, with a guy in a big, Disneyland-looking animal suit as Crash Bandicoot. Outside of, I think, like the Nintendo offices, and like kind of mocking them with a megaphone. You know, those were Sony PlayStation commercials. He was the face of PlayStation in the PS1 generation. And now a new Crash Bandicoot game might be exclusive to Xbox. That is nuts. We'll see if that makes sense. I mean, the audience for that's nostalgic for that, I guess they're just going to have to figure out where that audience is. I do, in one sense, believe Phil Spencer when he said a while back, and has continued to say, I think, that each game of these studios and developers and publishers that they acquire, each game they determine whether or not it's going to be exclusive on a case-by-case basis. I think that's probably true. But I think we ought to be ready for all of them to be exclusive, and maybe very few of them to not be exclusive. The language, that was kind of like the first sign to me that Microsoft is maybe going to be going in a less player-friendly direction when Phil Spencer and their proper PI guy, PR guy, not PI, PR guy, would be very vague about this language of exclusives. And then we saw how it played out. And, they would say things that were very non-committal about Elder Scrolls and, Bethesda games being exclusive. And then they're like, yeah, Starfield's exclusive. Oh, and yeah, Phil Spencer says, I see the Elder Scrolls as being exclusive to consoles that have Game Pass, places with Game Pass. So I think the language has gotten clearer and less and more in the realm of exclusives after the ink was signed. And so I think right now, or the ink dried, whatever the expression is, I think right now, everything we hear Xbox say about their plans for Activision-Blizzard should be considered highly suspicious until the ink dries on this deal. And then after the ink dries, maybe immediately we'll get some stuff. Maybe it'll take a few months. But yeah. Don't hold out hope, I would say, for anything in particular to be a multi-platform that Xbox has acquired, or Microsoft, has acquired. Let's see here. Oh man, sorry to hear that. Mr. Rob's Cleaning Service. He says, I want you to know that a couple months ago I lost my girlfriend. Your channel helped me through a pretty rough time. I thank you, and you're definitely a blessing in my life. Man, I am so sorry to hear that. And I'm glad that I could in some way be useful to you. That's how the body works, it seems, I mean, primarily in local churches, but also in other ways in this crazy age of the internet that we have, that there are just different ways we don't even anticipate that God puts us in the radius of the people that he can use us to minister to in ways that we can't even orchestrate or plan for or anticipate. So I'm so glad to have been useful to you in that. Kuba Booba says, I think Sony can still compete. PS has great exclusives. I hope PS comes out with their own titles to compete against this acquisition. Yeah, I mean, I think that their exclusives have been working very well for them, have been very strong. A lot of commentators will, well, maybe not a lot. I think one of the main ones I listen to is Colin Moriarty, which, by the way, just a little inside info, he just had me on one of his podcasts again. I was on his Fireside Chats podcast a couple years ago, and then right before the Christmas break, he invited me to be on Sacred Symbols Plus, which is usually just exclusive to his patrons. I'll let you know, of course, if it goes public, but we recorded just earlier today for hour and a half, something like that, about Christianity and gaming. So that was a really cool conversation. But he's a guy that, since his early Kind of Funny days, I've really appreciated his just analysis and thoughtfulness. And he makes the observation that I think is probably right, that like the exclusives that Sony puts out Or actually, the comparison he was making, I think, was the PlayStation Plus collection, that static collection of games that they put out for PS5 owners who subscribe to PlayStation Plus. It's a list of just some of the most successful and well-received games on PlayStation, many of which are exclusive. Or maybe not many. Is it half? I don't know. A good number of them. And, he's just like, it's quality over quantity. When Sony is doing stuff, you can have a bunch of games on Game Pass, but the number of games on Game Pass that are actually really quality games is just demonstrably less than the number of quality games on PlayStation Plus or Sony's exclusives and stuff like that. And I can only agree with that in the sense of, well, let's look at the Metacritic scores. He's probably right in that. My tastes tend to be significantly different from what a lot of reviewers say is great. I love these games sometimes, or movies sometimes, that people will be like, that's broken, or that's crap, or whatever, so. But anyway, yeah, I think that Sony makes games, the exclusives, that are really well received. And if they can figure out how to keep that going and increase the number of those, then yeah, at least on the console level, Sony can still be a competitor. And especially, I think, if real soon here, they figure out a super consumer-friendly way to leverage their back catalog of like PS1 through PS3 games. There's still games on PS3 that I would really love to try. The first one that comes to mind is the Infamous. Is that the name? Is that a game series, Infamous? Yes, because Infamous Second Son is available, and Infamous Dying Light or Second Light or something light, I don't know, whatever it is, First Light, those you can play on the PS4 through backwards, or they were PS4 games, right? And then you can also play them on PS5. And I know that you don't have to have played the original Infamous games to dive right into Second Son, because it's a new character, new story, da-da-da-da-da. But there's still a part of me that's like, but I at least want to try that first one, And we still haven't been able to play any PS3 games that haven't been remastered on the PS4 and PS5. But if they could figure that out, and then also just figure out a way to let me play some PS2 games and get them looking nice and sharp, even if they don't do a remaster, just like, figure out some way to anti-alias the Jaggies or something. I don't know. I think there's some potential there. That's why right now, after this big move, I'm looking at Sony, They could do some really cool stuff in the next year or two. We'll see. Kubu Booba says, I don't think MS, Microsoft, makes great exclusives. Steve Jobs said that MS doesn't make beautiful products. I think I agree. That's interesting. Yeah, we'll see. They might make great exclusives now because they have bought people that make great games and are making those games exclusive. Kubu Booba asks, do you think Microsoft is more about quantity over quality? I wouldn't want to attach that broad of a statement to like Microsoft or even just to Xbox, quantity over quality. I think they would like to be both. And maybe they just haven't been able or haven't had the know-how that Sony has had to kind of organically create studios within them, their entity, their body, whatever the word is, that can really make quality games that really resonate with players and are really successful. I think Microsoft wants quality too. They're just going about it a different way. And it'll be interesting to see, because not only are they buying some companies that make quality games, but it sounds like they're really trying to make give them the funds, the resources to make even better quality games. So what we could be seeing is that, if all goes according to their plan, I would imagine, we will see Call of Duty games, we will see Bethesda games, id Software games, all these games from these people that they're buying, we'll see them better than they've ever been in those franchises before. I just heard recently that Tim Schafer, this is his hair, I guess. Tim Schafer. What's the name of the game they just came out with? Something 2. Not Insomniacs 2, Psychonauts 2. That Psychonauts 2 was not going to have boss fights in it. And then the Microsoft deal happened, and Microsoft said, here you go, here's time and money, and they got boss fights. So that's already one example of a game that is more and better than it was going to be because of the resources that Microsoft was able to give them. So it's going to be really interesting to see what happens. Francisco Ruiz quotes The Dark Knight, saying, either you die the hero or live long enough to become the villain. Bruce Microsoft. Yeah. Nathan Hale says, I think answering my question earlier, Christian apologetics really helped me learn about arguments for God's existence and evidence for the resurrection. I watched various videos with Frank Turek and William Lane Craig. Cool. I've heard the name Frank Turek. I've definitely been following William Lane Craig for years. I have been a believer from a very young age, as long as I can remember, but I'm wired to doubt. I'm wired to always say, well, what if? And so apologetics has been valuable for me in dealing with these really emotional doubts that I tend to feel, that once I actually put them on the table and factor in the evidence and the arguments, I'm like, okay, well, this is just a feeling you're having, Pater. It's because of the way you're wired, combined with maybe having too much caffeine or not enough and you're too tired or whatever you got going on today. You need to learn to just put these feelings aside and look at the actual data here, So that's been really, William Lane Craig's been really useful to me. And it's interesting because, it's not merely an intellectual proposition to come to Jesus. God is not merely this abstract concept that only the smart people accept. It's, if God is real, then he's personal and he's relational. And so it's really a choice of choosing whether or not we want to be in relationship with the God of the universe or not, whether or not we want to subject ourselves to him. But I've heard that for a significant number of people, the arguments and evidence that come from Christian apologetics done well can really help them come to faith and remove some of those obstacles to allow them to more fairly and clearly consider life with Christ and giving their lives to Christ. So that's really interesting to hear about. Kubububa says COVID is the Great Reset. Yeah, in some ways it's like a forced update. That's what it feels like. For a forced update from Microsoft. Hey, we're gonna make things better. They never make it better, not for me. Just new bugs. The battle has just begun, he adds. And let's see here. Nathan Hale then says, during my God-seeking journey, I was going to meetings of a Christian apologetics campus organization called, that's probably Latin, Ratio Christi is what I want to say, but it's probably Ratio Christi. Anyway, haven't heard of it, but sounds interesting. I'm a college student, and I still go to these meetings. That's great. That sounds like a good thing to do to continue establishing and building on that element of your foundation, if as it sounds it was foundational to your coming to faith. So that's a good thing. That's why I keep returning. I'm going to be 44 in April, and I've been a believer all my life, and I keep kind of in bursts coming back to apologetics because I also have a crappy memory. And so when I notice kind of the what if monster being a little bit more active and he keeps coming back a little more often, I'll notice that that's because I think to myself, well, what if I can't remember. What was that argument again for what was the evidence there? I can't remember the details. I can't retain the data. And so that's when I switch over my podcasts for a while to get back to William Lane Craig and okay, refresh my memory on this stuff. So yeah, it's great for me to keep coming back to. Um, let's see here. Hey, Balmy Leader 6980 says, sup. Well, sup to you, sir. Again, I think you're male. I think I've interacted with you enough to figure that out. But usernames are so. If I ever get that wrong, guys, I'm sorry. It's only because that's just kind of like statistically there seems to be more males that have been interested in my content. But I don't ever mean to assume that. I've been thrilled and very happy to interact with female geeks, some of whom have been supporting me and my ministry for a long, long, long time. And so, there's no marginalization intended there. Balmy Leader says, hang on. I accidentally skipped down further than I meant to. Oh, man. Okay, so we have 15 minutes left. I need to start going through these a little bit faster. DT asks, what is your favorite fictional book, even if you don't read fiction often? Yeah, I don't read fiction like novels near as often as I used to in like college and high school and stuff. I don't have a favorite book. I've got a couple favorite authors. Brent Weeks, specifically the Night Angel trilogy. I'm still trying to warm up to his Prism whatever series, with the colors and stuff. Can't remember what it's called. I'm still like a third of the way through the first book in that one. Terry Goodkind, really like a lot of his writing style. He puts his characters through the ringer. He's an objectivist, which is a naturalistic philosophy, and he preaches objectivism. And it's interesting because there are things about objectivism, valuing logic and reason and stuff, that are absolutely compatible and part of what we should be as believers. But then he'll want to affirm some absolute moral values that naturalism cannot have a foundation for, logically speaking. And so it's really interesting. And I have a little less patience for his preaching as I'm reading through that series for the second time now. But anyway, and then Terry Brooks, I still haven't finished given up on his books. I did lose interest in them for a while, but like was the first fantasy author that I discovered that I was like, I love this. The Shannara series in particular. Let's see here. Nathan Hale says, have you seen any of the old Planet of the Apes films? I'm a big fan. I think the original 1968 film is one of the best science fiction films and is one of my favorite films. Long ago in a galaxy far, far away, I did watch the original Planet of the Apes. Just the original. It was a long time. Gosh, was that in college when I took a film class in college. Maybe that was when I watched it. I don't know. It's been a long time. But I didn't follow up with the rest of the series after that. I have a thing with anthropomorphic animals. I think Disney ruined them for me somehow. But they all just seem a little silly to me. And like intended for kids. I know that's not the case in the Planet of the Apes movies. That there's some sophisticated commentary going on there. But I think that I just grew up with that connotation for anthropomorphic animals. And so when I see talking animals, I check out pretty fast. I did like the Tim Burton Planet of the Apes at the time. I thought it was cool enough that I bought the soundtrack. I don't think I ever watched the movie again, actually. But that one might be one of the closest times to me taking an anthropomorphic animal seriously in live action or animated storytelling. Let's see here. Oh, gosh. Yeah. DT, thanks for reminding me. I probably would have forgotten all about it. Did you say once, he says, that you had some plan for this channel you haven't said? If so, this is an Ask Me Anything. So, no, just kidding. If you don't want to reveal anything, that's fine, LOL. Let me try to see how many. I'm going to keep my fingers crossed so I don't forget. But yeah, I'm going to get to that near the end. Yes, DT. Spencer said that he sees the Elder Scrolls as being exclusive going forward. He didn't literally say they will be exclusive. He said he sees that franchise that way going forward. Let's see here. Balmy Leader, yeah, this is what I was going to read before. Oblivion still holds up visually, in my opinion. It does. Even before the boost to frame rate and fidelity that it got on Xbox One and Series X/S. But it was really cool to put in my Oblivion disc and see that, especially since they added recognition of the DLC if you have that in disc form for Oblivion, and now also for Fallout New Vegas. If you put in your disc, it wasn't that case from the beginning with Fallout New Vegas, but when they re-announced some of these up-res things and back compat enhancements, I tried it again. And yeah, if I ever play Oblivion again, which I think there's an okay chance I will, or at least get back into a save that I have on there that I haven't exhausted everything I can do, that's much more likely. I'll totally play it on the Series X. Looks really nice. But even without that, again, a lot of these enhancements and things, a lot of what these new consoles are right now, it's nice if you have them, but I would say don't buy them for that. I don't think they're worth it for that. But, you know, they're cool if you do have them while you wait for, you know, the stuff you would really have the console for. Let's see here. DT says, I remember a video, correct me if I'm wrong, of you feeling quite emotional after the Moriarty talk as you had been nervous before. Was the talk a powerful experience? Yeah, that one, feeling emotional after that might have been after the first time that like when I drove out to California and went to actually his apartment for the fireside chats and sat down with him in person. That was really something. And afterward, I think I was elated that it went so well. I don't remember like being so relieved that I was tearing up or anything like that. I think I was just freaking elated. So, I mean, that was the emotion maybe there. Yeah, I don't think with any of the talks I've had with him, including today, it turned into something for either one of us that was like this unexpectedly moving kind of territory. That's not where any of those conversations have gone. But in another way, I might describe it as a powerful experience. It was just cool. It was just really cool. I really felt like the things I was able to talk about with him today are the kinds of things I think the Holy Spirit would want me to be saying. And so I think that there were some Spirit-led things going on there. And we'll just see what kind of fruit it produces when he puts that up. So, yeah. You never know. I think detecting movement of the Spirit, in my experience, is easier in hindsight. Let's see. Francisco Ruiz is open totally for doing more Keep Talking Nobody Explodes. We'll see if that ever happens. I don't know. That's an intense game. Hello, Blizzard Stormer. Questioner, he says, are you willing to play the entire Sly Cooper collection for a gameplay video you do? That feels like a big ask. I have no idea if I would even enjoy those games. I know very little about them. I think I probably watched a review of them a long time ago, but I mean, I don't really remember anything about it. So I don't know if I would enjoy it, and I wouldn't want to put money down for something I might not enjoy. So it's, you know, all things are possible. Plausible? I don't think so at this point. Hello, Strawberry H asks, what's an underrated run or writer who doesn't get credit? Maybe thinking like comic book type stuff? I don't know. I don't really keep tabs on what's popular. I just kind of read what I like. So that would be a hard one to answer. Hello, Emmanuel T. Welcome, welcome. Several usernames I've never seen before. Strawberry H, Emmanuel T. 2 more to add to the list of new names to me. I love it. Emmanuel T. asks, just wondering, have you ever played or heard of Mount and Blade 2 Bannerlord? Yes, I have. And there are elements of that I'm like, oh, I might really like this. I don't know. I think every time I think along those lines, I go and watch multiple reviews again, and at the end of that conclude, maybe not. And I don't ever pull the trigger. Let's see here. Well, thank you, DT. He says, 44, you look like you're about to turn 30. Thank you very much. My dad's side of the family, well, and my mom's too, have good genes. It was always funny when I turned 21 and was working in the liquor department of Walgreens, when people would come to buy alcohol and they'd be like, I don't think I can buy this from you. So it hasn't always served me well, but in this stage of life, I don't mind looking younger than I am, certainly. Let's see here. I'm going to start not necessarily going through everything that I'm not positive is directed at me, but I'll definitely hit the stuff that has at Christian Geek Central in it. Do you know the stats, DT asks, from YouTube on what the percents roughly are in your audience, like male, female, American or non-American, etc.? I'm really terrible at following that stuff. In part because I don't know how useful it would be. I don't really know what to do with that data. In part because at times it feels discouraging, to be keeping track of growth or lack thereof, So I'm just terrible about that. The whole marketing side of things, the whole getting the word out and being strategic and how to make that happen, I am terrible at. That's why I've said on the podcast a number of times, I don't know the secret sauce for marketing except that you guys are the secret sauce. It's word of mouth, it's telling people, and actually that's related to something I'm going to talk about in just a second here that's coming up for this channel. But yeah, I'm terrible at this stuff. Francisco says, have to go get ready for a podcast. I will be live after you are done at Retro Rewind Pod on YouTube. Self-promoting because you usually say I can. Don't read this otherwise. No, absolutely. Yeah, that's cool. At Retro Rewind Pod on YouTube. Francisco does a great podcast. So have fun. I'm almost at the end here. Let's see here. DT says, well, that is what I got from it, that the feelings were because you didn't shy away from a difficult conversation but went through with it. Oh, yeah. I mean, there was definitely some pent up kind of emotion and stuff, and there were some challenging aspects of that because we were talking about questioning faith, and I was talking in that first time when I went out to his place for that. We were talking about doubts and questions we have of Christianity. I was coming at it from someone who's been a Christian my whole life and asks these hard questions and is haunted by a lot of these questions. And he was coming at it more from someone who's not a Christian and from the outside in is kind of being critical and stuff. And so there was a sense that is difficult, and I had to be really careful not to become defensive, And I found that really his objections during that conversation, they were very much part of the armchair critic objections realm, which I'd kind of noticed from him for a while, that he certainly seemed to have not been exposed to good Christian defenses and responses to these questions. They're just common questions that many non-Christians don't bother to seek the answers to because they figure, yeah, this is totally a sound objection and that's good enough for me. I don't need to test it against anything, So in that sense, because I'd been so familiar with these objections and the responses to them, I wasn't feeling at risk of being defensive. But at times he would put so many in a row, all in one sentence, and I'm like, okay, where do I even start? There's not a chance to go through it all, And so in that sense, I was really on my toes, okay, what is the vital thing I think worth addressing right now? But T. Alan Sawyer, another new username. Great to have you. T. Alan Sawyer asks, can you recommend any fantasy novels in medieval setting? Characters are Christians, pray in Jesus' name, amen. Christ, by that name, is central, not just parallels like Narnia. No, I can't. Because I don't read a lot of fiction to begin with, I'm very particular these days about the fiction that I do read. It's got to be a particular kind of prose, I'm just really particular that way. So I really don't read myself any Christian written fiction, but I'm always giving updates on the Christian Geek Central podcast. There's a brief news segment in that podcast every week where I am talking about things that I've learned about, books that have been announced from publishers like Enclave Publishing and that have been highlighted on great resources like lorehaven.com. So if you just follow me on Twitter at Christian_geek, almost every week I'm retweeting some announcement of a new book by a Christian author in geek genres, sci-fi, fantasy, even horror now and then. So that would be a resource that you could consider, at Christian_geek. Let's see here. DT asks him, what game did you feel most disappointed, or what is the first that comes to mind? Not the game you think is the worst, but the one that was just the biggest disappointment. I'm just looking at my shelf back here. I tend to just kind of move on from those. I think maybe back in the day when I had much more limited resources, I was just working off an allowance or something like that. There was maybe some game or two that was a bigger disappointment, but because I'm more careful with my funds now and often wait for sales on games, I get disappointed with a game that I was hoping would be good, but not so disappointed that it really sticks with me. I kind of just move on, you know. So let's see here. And then, let's see. Last question, I think, before I kind of share my announcement. Now that it's 7 o'clock my time and I guess 6 o'clock Pacific, which is what I advertise this based on. P.S. DT adds, this was a really fun stream that had quite a bit of participation and flowed well. I look forward to another if you are interested and it fits your schedule sometime. Yeah, thank you so much. And I really had no idea that so many people would be jumping into chat, especially at the beginning when things were looking really quiet. So just for a few seconds there at the beginning, and then we got a flood of people coming in with questions and comments, and so that was great. So thank you all for being here. All right, so let me share what's coming up. I have said I'm not any good at like the marketing and getting the word out and stuff. It's just you guys are the secret sauce. People that watch the YouTube channel or the live streams or or listen to the podcast. It's you guys. That's the only consistent, I think, that helps Christian Geek Central grow and find the people that it's really going to minister to, you know. And that's what I want to do, because so many times I'll hear people say, I just discovered your content and where has this been, you know, for the last however many years of my life? I can't believe I never found this before. They're so appreciative to have found this kind of content. And so that just makes me think there are other people out there that would really connect with this content and with the kinds of events and community type stuff like this, that just don't know about it. And I am too dumb in the marketing world to know how to make it happen. But you guys can do amazing things in that realm. And so I am announcing what may be a new annual event that I'm calling Summer Insanity. And this is a new potential 24-hour marathon event that I will do some bonkers stuff in. I mean, like above and beyond what you're used to me doing during like the gaming charity fundraising marathon that I've done, you know, for 8 years now. So what I want to do is I think the record number of like subscription growth over the course of a year is about 1,000. And so I want to see if we can do well more than that this calendar year. And so I kind of did like some factoring. Okay, what would be at least 1,000 divided out over 12 months? How many would that be per month? And da-da-da-da-da. And where would that put us on, say, June 1st? If I was going to do a summer event. So June 1st is the date I picked. And depending on how many subscribers the Christian Geek Central YouTube channel has on June 1st, that will determine just how insane this summer live stream event is going to be. And I'm planning on making some bumpers and doing other things between now and June 1st to remind everybody that's watching the channel and listening to the podcast about this initiative, so that hopefully you guys will be keeping in mind who you could invite to check out the channel, invite to subscribe to the channel, or maybe if you've just followed but haven't actually clicked that subscribe button yourself, you can pull the trigger and click that subscribe button. Some neat things happen on the back end of YouTube that make this channel show up more often in people's searches as well as those subscriber numbers go up. So it's not just you directly introducing people to the content, but some stuff happens algorithmically on the back end. The higher number of subscribers that I have, more tools are available for me as a content creator that can help get the word out better. And so just neat things happen for the potential of this ministry as those subscriber numbers go up on the YouTube channel. So June 1st, that's the date. That's the date. I'm going to count it up and see what happens. If we have, I think we have like 3,000 and like, I don't know, double digits something. 3,050 or something. If we have 3,300 on June 1st, I'll do a 6-hour live stream from 9 p.m. to 3 a.m. So that'll be a little kooky. I'll probably be getting tired and fatigued, and it'll be a fun time. But that'll still not be, really that far above average of like the best year of subscription growth. If we get 3,400, then it jumps up to twice that length. 12-hour live stream from 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. my time. Okay, so we're still not 24-hour, but I'm doing the hardest hours of that normal annual marathon, 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. That'll get plenty bonkers. We're going places here. 3,500, boom, just 100 more jumps up. That's a 24-hour live stream, 6 a.m. to 6 a.m. my time. Not necessarily doing anything crazy kooky at that point yet, but 24-hour live stream if we're at 3,500 by June 1st. If we're at 3,600, then I will play 1 hour of frustrating games like I did for a couple of my live streams in the fall, and I will put on the Frozen Socks that I do for that the charity live stream. If we go to 3,700, it'll be 1 hour of frustrating games and 1 hour of terrifying games. And if you haven't, 1 hour is bad enough with the games that I chose. I did a terrifying games live stream. What was that in like? I don't know. It was around the time of the marathon this last fall, and oh my gosh, the one I did was like 4 hours long, and I thought I was going to pass out at one point. I legit had to like lower my head to close to between my knees to keep from passing out. I was freaking out so much. So if you want more of that psychotic action, 3,700 will get us there. 3,800, and I'll have 2 hours of frustrating games, 1 hour of terrifying games, Frozen Socks, Frozen Shirt. Oh yeah, the Frozen Shirt gets unlocked at 37. 3,800, Frozen Socks, Frozen Shirt, and Water Up the Nose at 3,800. If we're at 3,800 by June 1st. 3,900, 2 hours of frustrating games, 2 hours of terrifying games, Frozen Socks, Frozen Shirt, Water Up the Nose, and I will show a video of myself that will make me writhe in agony of embarrassment. I put this up as a thing for Extra Life a number of years ago, and we didn't get that far in the fundraising, and I was so glad. I was like, I am never putting that up again. I'm never making that an option again. It would just be too much for me. It would just be too much. Well, I'm putting that back on the table. I will writhe in agony of embarrassment showing you guys this video. That's if we hit 3,900. 4,000. If we hit 4,000, man, that'll be awesome. If we hit 4,000, then the marathon becomes 25 hours long. That'll be longer than any marathon I've ever done before. And by the end there, 1 more hour is a huge difference. A huge difference. So at 4,000, it becomes 25 hours, 2 hours of frustrating games, 3 hours of terrifying games, Frozen Socks, Frozen Shirt, Water Up Nose, a video of myself that'll make me writhe in agony of embarrassment, and I will trigger my gag reflex for 30 seconds or until I puke, whichever happens first. Holly says, you got to tell me when that's happening. I need to be far, far away from that. So 4,000 is like the big number that I'd really like to hit. Oh, I would love to hit 4,000 by June 1st. That'd be amazing and totally worth making myself puke. And all that other crazy crap. Oh my gosh. But there's room after that for things to get more nuts. If for some reason this is way more successful than I imagine it could be, and we jump from 4,000 to 4,500, then it's 25 hours, 2 hours of frustrating games. We jump up to 5 hours of terrifying games. I think I'm going to need some kind of I'm going to have to be... I'm going to have to go to some kind of an institution for help after that. If the 4 hour one is any indication. 5 hours, I don't know how I can handle that. I would never want to do 4 hours again. But if we get to 4,500 subscribers by June 1st, I'm going to do 5 hours of terrifying games, 2 hours of frustrating. So that's 7 hours of this 25-hour marathon. They're going to be very unpleasant for me. Plus Frozen Socks and Shirt, Water Up Nose, horrifyingly writhing agony of embarrassment, trigger gag reflex for 30 seconds or until I puke, and I will do the truffle shuffle. Not looking forward to that. I struggle with pride. I have all my life. And I am not a svelte, carved man. I am a flabby man. And even in the past when I've done those, when I've taken my shirt off, I'm vain enough that you better believe I checked the camera to see how far down it was going to go. You know, I don't need you guys to see my flabbiness if it's not absolutely necessary. Well, if we hit 4,500, it'll be absolutely necessary. I will do the freaking truffle shuffle. If you don't know what that is, look it up online. It's a Goonies reference. Chunk, before they would let him in to the gate, he had to get up, lift up his shirt, and jiggle his fat around and make weird noises. I don't know how long. I'll have to watch that clip again. But that'll happen if we hit 4,500. And finally, the only other thing that I have any kind of unlocks for is if somehow we jump from 4,500 to 5,000, then the marathon is 26 hours, 2 hours of frustrating games, 6 hours of terrifying games. What the crap? What the crap? That's unhealthy. That's unhealthy. I'm pretty sure of it. Frozen socks and shirt, water up nose, show a video of myself that will make me writhe in agony of embarrassment, trigger gag reflex for 30 seconds. And I'm kind of thinking I'll do this all back to back. It'll just be like, if anybody tunes in at that moment, they're going to see me messed up in so many ways. Trigger gag reflex for 30 seconds or until I puke. Do the truffle shuffle and shave a front to back bald strip on my head. So there you have it. If we get to 5,000, a lot of crazy stuff that will truly make it a summer of insanity. If even a significant number of those things get unlocked, but I mean, like, I'll be over the edge. I'm thinking to myself, I don't see how we could get to 5,000. That would be like crazy. That would be insane, and then it would make it worth it, because that just seems like really far out there. But it's amazing sometimes what the internet can do when they choose to mobilize and just make things happen. And who knows what you guys might end up doing and how the Holy Spirit might orchestrate some things. I have no idea. But that's my plan. Summer of Insanity. You'll hear more about it again and again ad nauseum between now and June 1st, which will be the deadline that all those things get decided. But yeah, let me then wrap things up. We are over time here. But I will try to get to stuff that is directed at me here before I sign off. DT asks... oh wait, no, you already did that. You already asked that. Yeah, this is a really fun stream that had quite a bit of participation and flowed well. I look forward to another if you're interested and it fits your schedule sometime. Thank you. I'll definitely put this on my radar as like something to do, maybe not just when I reach those 1,000 subscriber benchmarks, but... DT says, are you open to constructive criticism about what I may like or dislike? I love your channel, enjoy what you do, but I don't know if you want feedback or not. Sure, yeah, email me. Now's probably not the best time, but email me, paeter@spiritblade.com, or leave a comment below, like a video or whatever. It doesn't have to be related to the topic of that video. Sure, yeah, I mean, especially criticism delivered in kindness, that with the intent of, just letting me know kind of what you like, what you connect with, what you dislike and stuff. I absolutely, want to hear that stuff. Yeah. Let's see here. Some encouraging words from DT about the idea of this thing. And DT asks, will you post all of these targets somewhere? Yes, yes. I haven't figured out exactly what I'm going to do yet, but I'll probably make some kind of hub similar to what I did for the Game Save Marathon, a hub that people can go to track where we're at and what things are unlocked and the basic information. There'll be something like that. So yeah, good question. David Avila. Hey, Dave Avila. Man, Dave Avila is the man who, years before I was on YouTube, I went to a podcast kind of like get together with some Christian podcasters out in California. I believe it was at your house, Dave. And we were interacting at a table, I think playing Winston Crutchfield's board game, and at one point you said, you should really be on YouTube. And much to my regret, I said, oh my gosh, no. No, I can't. I add another thing to my schedule. At that time, I still had a real tight laser focus on mostly focusing on audio drama. But I wish I would have gotten on YouTube sooner. So thank you. Those words did come back to haunt me and make me consider and probably get on YouTube when I did instead of waiting any longer. So thank you very much for that suggestion way, way, way back when. And let's see. DT says, bald strip. This must happen. And says 6 hours of terrifying games. Pater, do you have an ambulance on standby? I should maybe consider that. My wife is a pharmacist, so maybe there's some over-the-counter stuff she could recommend in a pinch that I could pop. That'll help me out. David Avila says, challenge accepted. Thank you, David. I hope that is a common sentiment. Let's see here. Balmy Leader adds 60K. Shaving my head bald, playing games for 48 hours straight with no food or water. Oh my gosh. Yeah, that would be like, I think, the summer of death if I did that. Jewbanger says, let's recruit a Russian bot farm as a last resort. That's great, guys. That's great. Okay, well, that's it. Thank you so much for coming out for this. You'll be hearing way more than you want to about the Summer of Insanity on the YouTube channel, the podcast, in the coming weeks. And I'm really gratified and excited and grateful to hear about your enthusiasm and interest in it. So, yeah, here we go. Thanks a lot. I'll talk to you later. Bye-bye. Where's the button? Which button do I do? Let's try this one.